Hey, Woolshift Dustians. A little news. So today, on the day that this drops, we have a new podcast officially launching on the Lorehounds network, and that is Nevermind the Music. So Nevermind the Music is two academics with a sense of humor who get together and talk about music through the lens of psychology and musicology and more. Get a taste of it right here, right now, in the 5-minute preview that follows. And then you'll find a link in the show notes where you can subscribe in your podcatcher of choice to hear more. And of course, also stay subscribed here because coming up in October, we have our Dune book breakdown. And of course, in November, Silo Season 2 begins. And we've been very busy, Abby and I, on the book club, finishing off the books and the short stories in our rewatch of Season 1 to prep. So we are ready to go. More news to follow on that soon. All right, enjoy this quick first look at Nevermind the Music.
Could the tone of this intro be us trying to decide what the tone of the intro is?
It's key that people know that we're like academics, but that we're doing this irreverently. That's what I want them to know. What would we say? What?
Are you recording now?
Yeah.
Are we recording right now? We're recording?
We're recording the pre-conversation.
Oh my
the
gosh.
pre-party.
Hi, I'm Nicole.
And I'm Mark. And this is Nevermind the Music.
Hey, Mark, do you ever notice that when you're listening to music, one part of the song just gets really stuck in your head and you like ruminate on it and you can't get it out of your head?
Absolutely. And I've got some musical explanations for that, but I bet you have some psychological explanations for it.
I totally do.
Anybody remember in high school or middle school or even college, you had that professor that would every now and then just like waste a lot of time talking about random stuff.
Yeah,
and
that's us.
Half the time you're like, we have a test tomorrow. But most of the time you're like, yeah, he's wasting time. Yeah. That's this podcast.
I think it is, yeah.
I do that in my classes. Like,
I'm notorious for that I have people like, we're off track right now. I'm like, okay. I'm like, gosh, nerd.
You say notorious. That's right. That student. But you say notorious like it's bad. That's where the meaningful learning happens.
It's when
someone raised their hand and they start talking about hardcore punk. When I was teaching a lecture on Beethoven and we go on this 20-minute sidetrack that I feel like people are going to remember that better than if we just stuck to the plan.
I think so. I mean, maybe that's ADHD, but I'm not sure. And I think that...
You're not a psychologist or anything? Oh, wait a minute. We are two friends, one a psychology professor, the other a music professor, talking about a song over a beer.
Maybe we drank too much coffee. When we first started, I told you the first thing I do when I listen to a new song is I read the lyrics, and you told me I was listening to music wrong.
Oh, no, I did not tell you that. Are you kidding?
You said, you're listening to it wrong. And I was like, how could it be wrong?
If I said that, I have edited it out of the podcast in shame because I did not mean to say that.
Yeah, you're like, well, you're doing it wrong. I was like, well, what's the right way? Mark, what are some of like the different songs that we've talked about so far in this pod?
Well, there's that time that we started talking about The Sign by Ace of Base, and I wanted to talk about how they do some cool key changes from major to minor, and then you started talking about Jung's collective unconscious. How did we get there?
I don't know. It made sense at the time. I don't honestly, Mark.
So I've written down the topics of the episodes.
I don't even remember half the things that we talk about on
So what about the episode where we talk about how the way a Dua Lipa song's melody is built is analogous to the various personality components of a person?
that was really cool. We talked about like how you take like a foundation and keep adding and adding and adding onto it, and that myriad of sound creates this really complex texture, like the myriad of our personalities created with our life experiences.
What I love about this podcast is I think I know why a piece of music works the way it works. And I bring a song to the table and I'm like, let me show you a cool chord or let me show you a cool melodic trick. And you tell me actually why. There's like a brain thing going on. Like we're talking about a catchy melody and you're like, let's talk about intrusive thoughts for a second.
That conversation got weird though, that intrusive thought